What would you do if someone tried to erase your entire life story in front of your family? At our uncle's retirement party, my cousin Aria manipulated everyone, taking credit for my achievements and even showing Gran my doctored internship letter. The shocking confrontation that followed exposed betrayal, lies, and the length someone would go to steal an identity. What happens next will shock you. So this whole mess went down last weekend at my uncle David's retirement party. It was supposed to be a nice, chill celebration dinner at this fancy banquet hall downtown, speeches, cheesy slideshow of him fishing and golfing, all that stuff. My family's not exactly low drama, but for once I thought, hey, we might actually get through one event without chaos. You ain't no. I was sitting at a round table with my mom, Aunt Claire, and my cousin Aria. She had on this emerald green dress, hair perfectly curled, smiling way too big like she was auditioning for something. Aria has always been tricky. On the surface, she's sweet, the perfect granddaughter, but behind the scenes she's constantly scheming, always trying to one-up everyone else. Anyway, halfway through dinner, Uncle David got up to give his thank you speech. He started talking about family values, honesty, and integrity, and I swear I saw Aria smirk. Then she leaned over to me and whispered, "Watch this." Next thing I know, she's standing up, clinking her glass with a fork. "I'd like to say something about Uncle David too," she announces. Everyone turns to her, and she launches into this emotional, almost rehearsed-sounding speech about how he taught her responsibility, how she's always looked up to him, blah blah. People were nodding, even tearing up. But here's the kicker, she started dropping little details that weren't hers. Stuff that actually happened to me. Like the time Uncle David helped me with a summer internship application, or how he gave me advice when I was struggling with student loans. She twisted the whole thing and made it sound like it was her story. I whispered to my mom, "That's not true, that was me." My mom gave me the side eye and muttered, "Just let it go. Don't ruin the night." But it felt like someone had punched me. When Aria sat back down, she leaned over and whispered, "See, they love me. You've always been too quiet to get noticed." The way she said it wasn't even subtle. Straight up manipulation, like she was trying to erase me right there at our uncle's party. The rest of dinner I couldn't even eat. Every time someone came up to tell Aria how inspiring her words were, my blood boiled. Aunt Claire even said, "You've really matured. Aria, you sound just like your cousin when she talks about David." And Aria, with the fakest modest smile ever, replied, "Well, maybe we're more alike than people realize." I wanted to scream. She wasn't just stealing credit, she was literally weaving herself into my life story like it was hers. And everyone was eating it up. Then things escalated. During dessert, Aria pulled out her phone and showed Grandma a picture of her internship letter. Except it wasn't hers, it was mine. I recognized the screenshot immediately. My name had been cropped out. My jaw dropped. I realized then this wasn't just her being dramatic. She was actually trying to steal my identity, piece by piece, and manipulate the whole family into believing it. I sat there frozen, watching Grandma beam at Aria like she'd just won a Nobel Prize. "Oh, sweetheart, I'm so proud of you," she said, patting Aria's hand. Aria just tilted her head and gave this syrupy thank you. Grandma that made me want to flip the whole dessert table. My stomach was in knots. It wasn't just lying anymore, it was calculated. She'd cropped my name out of my own internship letter. That meant she'd been planning this. Who does that? I leaned over to my mom and whispered, "That's literally my letter. She stole it off my laptop." My mom frowned but whispered back, "We'll talk about it later, not now." Classic mom move, avoid the conflict, keep the peace. But it didn't feel like peace. I felt like watching a thief walk away with my whole identity while I was tied to a chair. Things really blew up when my cousin Mark, who never misses a chance to stir the pot, asked Aria loudly, "So what company did you get into again? Didn't you say Goldman?" My fork clattered against the plate because that's my internship. Aria didn't even blink. "Yeah, Goldman Sachs," she said smoothly, like she'd been rehearsing it. A couple people gasped, and Uncle David even raised his glass. Impressive, Aria, that's no small feat. I couldn't take it anymore. "Wait, hold up," I said, my voice way louder than I intended. Everyone turned. "That's not true, that's my internship. She's literally lying to all of you." The table went dead silent. Aria's eyes widened for a split second, then she plastered on that fake, innocent face. "What are you talking about? You must be confused." "Confused?" I snapped. "That's my acceptance letter you just showed Grandma. You cropped my name out. You're taking my stories, my achievements, like they're yours. Stop pretending." Gasps around the table. Aunt Claire looked horrified. Grandma pulled her hand back, and Uncle David's face tightened. Aria didn't flinch. She leaned back in her chair, crossed her arms, and said, "You've always been jealous of me. Now you're trying to ruin my moment because you can't stand it when I get attention." That hit me like a slap. The manipulation was on full display now, twisting it around to make me the aggressor. People started whispering. I caught my dad shaking his head like he wasn't sure who to believe. Then Mark, bless his chaotic soul, pulled out his phone. "All right, let's settle this. Aria, show us the full letter with the name." Aria froze. Just for a second, but enough that everyone saw it. Then she laughed it off. "Oh, I must have deleted the original. I just saved a screenshot." "That's convenient," Mark muttered. I felt my pulse racing in my ears. This was the climax of years of her manipulation finally boiling over. And in that moment, I knew I wasn't going to let her rewrite my life in front of my whole family. The tension in the room was thick enough to cut with a knife. Everyone was staring at Aria, expecting some kind of explanation or at least a reaction, but she just leaned back, her smirk slowly returning. Like she owned the room. I stood up, shaking with anger. "No, this ends now. You can't just take my achievements, my life experiences, and make everyone believe they're yours. That's not admiration, that's theft." Aria rolled her eyes, almost theatrical. "Oh please, you've always been so dramatic. I'm just telling our story. We share experiences. don't we? Maybe you're overthinking it. Overthinking it. She literally stole my internship, my stories, and a screenshot of my personal documents. Betraying doesn't mean claiming my life as your own. I yelled. I could feel the heat rising to my face, my hands trembling. Uncle David finally stepped in, his expression stern. Aria, is this true? His voice was calm, but carried a weight that made the room hold its breath. Aria hesitated, but then with that fake charm dialed all the way up, she said, I didn't mean any harm, I just wanted to feel closer to everyone. Is that such a crime? Closer? This wasn't closeness, it was identity theft in front of my entire family. I wanted to scream, but I remembered Grandma's gaze. She was looking from Aria to me, confused, hurt, unsure what to believe. That's when Aunt Claire, who had been quietly fuming the entire evening, slammed her hand on the table. No, Aria, that is a crime emotionally, morally, and honestly, legally. You cannot take someone else's life story and present it as your own. This isn't about feeling close, it's about lying and manipulating everyone here. The room got even quieter. Aria's smirk folded slightly, but she quickly tried to recover. Claire, it's not like that. Mark cut in sharply, holding his phone up like evidence. Actually, yes, I have the original letter right here, with the real name. Screenshots don't lie. Aria, you altered it. That's your moment. That's stealing from your own cousin in front of the whole family. Now the gasps were audible. Grandma's hand trembled as she clutched her pearls. Aria, is this true? She asked softly. Aria's eyes darted around, searching for an ally. There was no one. She looked at me, and for the first time, I saw panic in her expression. It too was just a joke, she stammered. A joke? I almost yelled, slamming my palm on the table. A joke that steals my identity, manipulates the entire family, and ruins what should have been Uncle David's celebration. That's not a joke, that's cruel. Uncle David sighed, rubbing his temples. Aria, you need to leave the table. Let's calm down before this escalates further. Aria stood slowly, her face pale, muttering, You're all overreacting, but the words sounded hollow even to her. She stormed off toward the hallway, shoulders stiff, head high, but I could see the tremor in her hands. As the door closed behind her, the room exhaled collectively. Whispered apologies, side glances, and an easy relief filled the air. The party wasn't over, but the illusion Aria had crafted was finally shattered. Mark nudged me. You okay? I nodded, still shaking. It felt like I'd won a battle, but the war of our family dynamics was far from over. After Aria stormed out, the room felt weirdly heavy, like the air itself had been tainted. The celebratory vibe of Uncle David's retirement party was gone, replaced by tension, whispered side conversations, and awkward silences. People kept glancing toward the hallway where she had disappeared, half expecting her to return with some dramatic apology or worse, another manipulation. Grandma finally spoke, her voice quivering. I just don't understand. Aria, why would you do something like this? Her eyes were still wet, and for the first time, I saw the depth of disappointment that my own words hadn't even reached. Aunt Claire put her hand on Grandma's shoulder. She wasn't thinking about anyone but herself. It's not about admiration or closeness, it's manipulation, plain and simple. I stayed seated for a moment, watching Aria's chair empty, feeling a strange mix of vindication and exhaustion. Mark leaned in, muttering, I didn't expect her to actually try it at the family event. This is next level. Yeah, I whispered, rubbing my temples. She didn't just take my achievements, she tried to rewrite the entire perception of me in front of everyone. I can't believe she did that here at his party. Uncle David walked over and crouched slightly beside me. You did the right thing standing up. Kiddo, that takes courage, especially when it's family. His voice was soft but firm, and I could feel the weight of his respect. Sometimes people you love, they make mistakes that hurt others. What matters is how we handle it. I nodded, but my mind kept replaying Aria's smirk, the way she whispered to me, see, they love me. It wasn't about love, it was about control. Meanwhile, Aria's absence was creating ripples across the room. Cousins whispered, friends shifted uncomfortably, and even some distant relatives who hadn't known the full story were now aware something had gone horribly wrong. The party, which should have been joyful and light-hearted, now felt like a battlefield. After a few minutes, Aunt Claire took a deep breath and said, I think we all need a little space. Let's not let this ruin the evening completely, but we need to have a family discussion later. Grandma nodded reluctantly. I suppose, but she's still my granddaughter. I just don't know how to process this. Mark leaned back and muttered, honestly, I didn't think I'd ever see Aria actually get called out in front of people. This is wild. I gave him a small, tired smile. Yeah, wild doesn't even cover. The party continued in a muted, awkward fashion. Tours were shorter, laughter was forced, and Uncle David's slideshow ended with him looking more nostalgic than celebratory. I felt this weird mixture of guilt and relief. Guilt because family drama is messy, and relief because for the first time, Aria couldn't twist the narrative anymore. Later that night, as people trickled out and hugs were exchanged, I caught a glimpse of Aria peeking around the corner. Her face was pale, eyes darting, unsure of how to approach anyone now. She hadn't spoken to me, and honestly, I wasn't ready to forgive her, not yet. But I knew this confrontation had shifted the balance. I had my story back, and for now, that was enough. The next morning, the tension from the party hadn't eased at all. Family group chats were buzzing with messages, some gossipy, some concerned, a few were tried accusatory toward Aria. I didn't open them all, some things I wanted to process in my own head first, but I could feel the weight of the night pressing on me. By mid-morning, my mom and Aunt Claire insisted we meet at Aunt Claire's house. Grandma stayed behind, still visibly shaken. When I walked in, I found Mark already there, pacing the living room, phone in hand like he was taking notes for some sort of evidence dossier. Okay, Aunt Claire began, clasping her hands tightly. We need to handle this before it spirals even further. Aria's manipulation didn't just hurt you, it hurt everyone who trusted her story. She can't just pretend it never happened. I nodded, still tired from last night. She literally tried to take my identity in front of everyone, and she's not sorry, not really. She's still acting like she's the victim. Mark snorted. Yeah, she's already texting people in the group chat like I was bullied and no one understands me. Classic gaslighting. She's good. I'll give her that scarily good. My mom took a deep breath. Aria needs boundaries. She needs to understand the consequences of what she's done. This isn't just about stealing achievements, it's about trust, honesty, and respect. We all agreed that Grandma needed to confront Aria, but in a structured way, not during an emotional party. Grandma reluctantly called her, and after some back and forth, agreed to meet at a small cafe nearby. I didn't go. This was between Grandma and Aria, but I waited on the sidelines, curious and nervous. Later, Grandma returned, tears in her eyes but a firmer posture than before. She admitted it, Grandma said quietly. She said she didn't think it mattered, but she knows now it hurt me and everyone else. I think she finally realized she went too far. Aunt Claire frowned. Admitted it, but will she change? That's the real question. Manipulation like that doesn't disappear overnight. Grandma nodded. I don't know, but I feel a little closer, and I'm proud of you all for standing up to her. Mark grinned. You didn't just stand up, you earned it. I've never seen Aria speechless like that. It was kind of amazing. I laughed weakly. It felt more like surviving a hurricane than being amazing. I don't know how she can be so convincing. People really wanted to believe her. Mom put her arm around me. Some people can be very persuasive, but the truth matters more than appearances. She proved that last night. Even though there was some relief, the family atmosphere had shifted. Conversations were careful, trust was tentative, and Aria's influence had diminished. For the first time, I felt like I had reclaimed my space, my identity within the family. Still, I knew this wasn't over. Aria would keep trying, testing boundaries, manipulating when she thought no one was watching. But last night was a turning point. She may have tried to steal my identity, but she couldn't erase me. And that realization gave me a strange, quiet strength I hadn't felt before. Over the next few weeks, the family dynamic felt fragile. Aria kept trying to insert herself back into conversations, group chats, and family calls, but there was a new caution around her. People were polite, but there was an edge, a silent wariness. It was like everyone had a sixth sense now. They knew she could manipulate the narrative if given a chance. Aria, predictably, wasn't taking this well. She texted me once trying to sound casual. Hey, I feel like everyone's against me. Can we just move past last weekend? I didn't respond. I couldn't. Not yet. She had shown her hand, and I wasn't going to let her play me again. Aunt Claire and Mom had a long talk with Grandma, making it clear that Aria needed accountability. Grandma agreed, but, as always, tempered it with her soft heart. She's my granddaughter. I don't want to push her away, but she needs to understand the consequences of her actions. Meanwhile, Aria's attempts to regain status were subtle, but obvious. She would repeat stories in group calls, laugh a little too loudly, drop hints about my achievements as if they were hers, or try to take credit for small family successes. Every time, I noticed the micro-reactions: raised eyebrows, small frowns, tense laughter. The family wasn't fooled anymore. One evening, Uncle David called me privately. I know you've been through a lot, he said gently. Seeing Aria manipulate everyone at the party today was shocking, but the way you handled it, standing up, speaking the truth, it showed a lot of courage. That's your story, Aria or no Aria. I felt a little weight lift off my shoulders. Having him validate my experience made all the chaos slightly more bearable. Thanks, I said, my voice quiet. It's hard when people you care about get wrapped up in her delusions. Uncle David nodded. That's the thing, she can be very convincing, but consistency, honesty, and integrity, that's what lasts. She can't wreck who you are. Despite the validation, Aria's presence still created tension. Family dinners were quieter, jokes were cautious, and I found myself double-checking stories I told, worried she might twist them. Yet, I also noticed something encouraging. Small acts of defiance from her didn't shake the family as they once did. People were learning to recognize manipulation, to call it out, and to support each other instead of blindly believing her charm. Mark, of course, found it hilarious. She's like a tiny storm, trying to blow everyone over, and we're all standing here with umbrellas, he joked one night at dinner. I couldn't help but laugh. The metaphor fit perfectly. Slowly, the balance started to tip. Aria's attempts to dominate narratives were noticed immediately and called out politely but firmly. She couldn't hide behind charm anymore. And although she wasn't gone, she was no longer untouchable. For the first time, I realized reclaiming my identity wasn't about fighting her directly, it was about standing firm, telling the truth, and letting the family see who I really was. And in that, I finally felt a sense of victory, a quiet, steady reclaiming of my life that no manipulation could erase. Months passed since that chaotic retirement party, and while Aria was still part of family events, her influence had noticeably waned. The air of tension had softened, replaced by a cautious but healthier dynamic. People no longer allowed her charm to overshadow the truth, and I felt a sense of peace I hadn't thought possible during that nightmare. The first major turning point came at another family gathering, this time a summer barbecue at Uncle David's backyard. Aria tried her usual tactics, slipping into conversations and taking credit for little achievements, like helping Mark with a school project. But the difference this time was palpable. Cousins exchanged knowing glances. Aunt Claire would subtly steer conversations back to the truth. Grandma didn't smile and nod automatically at Aria's stories anymore. Everyone was tuned in, watching critically. I noticed Aria's confidence waver in subtle ways, the slight hesitation before she spoke, the careful way she tried to phrase things. It wasn't dramatic, just noticeable. She was still there, but she no longer controlled the narrative. And for the first time, I realized the power of simply being truthful and firm. My life couldn't be stolen if I didn't let it be. One afternoon, as we were clearing dishes after the barbecue, Grandma pulled me aside. I know this has been hard on you, sweetheart, but you handled everything with grace and courage. I want you to know that I see your truth. Don't ever let anyone take that away from you. Her words hit me in a way that nothing else could. It wasn't just validation, it was protection, acknowledgement, and trust all rolled into one. Later, Aria approached me, this time without an audience. Her voice was quiet, almost sheepish. Look, I'm sorry. I didn't realize how far I went. I just wanted everyone to like me. I took a deep breath. You hurt people, Aria. Not just me, but the entire family. Sorry is a start, but you need to prove you've learned from this. She nodded, and for once, there was no smirk, no manipulation. Just a young girl realizing the consequences of her actions. I didn't hug her or accept a sudden friendship, but I allowed the words to stand. Sometimes, accountability is more powerful than forgiveness. Over time, the family slowly healed. Trust was rebuilt in small increments. Conversations became open and honest again. Aria, while still complicated, started showing signs of genuine effort, acknowledging when she overstepped, giving credit where it was due, and no longer twisting stories to her advantage. I learned a lot from the experience. Manipulation can feel invisible until it's too late, and identity, the essence of who we are, can be threatened by those closest to us. But speaking up, standing firm, and relying on the support of family who truly know you can prevent someone from rewriting your story. Looking back, I realized the retirement party wasn't just a disaster, it was a turning point. It exposed Aria's of manipulation, false confrontations that were long overdue, and ultimately helped our family see who we truly were, both individually and collectively. And as for me, I finally felt fully in control of my own life, my own achievements, and my own story untouchable, no matter how clever someone else might be. The storm had passed. And though the sky wasn't completely clear, the sun was shining, and I was finally free to just be me.